Happy Monday. It's a holiday here, and I didn't find out until today. And I looked at my calendar and I had 6 notifications that it's a holiday. So, Kiana Sage here from Being in Sync 366 video series, doing this slightly different than what I've done in the past. However, I wanted to share with you all that, energy always works in patterns. So I'm by myself here, so I should wait for people to join on before I go into how many patterns there are for energy, infinite. So let me start by saying I get asked all the time if I'm a therapist or a psychologist or a doctor. No, I do consulting for energy psychology. That is what I do. I look at how patterns are running, cycles that are running, how are they running throughout their life, and then I adjust and help my clients adjust to create inner congruence within, because when we are not aware of our cycles, they tend to repeat. And today's topic for this week, we're focusing on the law of cycles. That is a universal law. So everything that I talk about in all of my videos are about alignment to the natural laws. And there are many laws within the natural laws, but today this week we're focusing on the law of cycles. Last week we focused on the law of gender. The week before that we focused on the law of correspondence, which is the what most people know as the law of attraction. And so this week we're focusing on the law of cycles. And every day I try to bring in that law so people can understand how it applies in everyday life. Because these laws don't operate, hey Oliver, good to see you. Thanks for being here and helping. We're talking about the law of cycles today, and I think it's going to be a fun topic. So just waiting for some other people to join in. Usually it takes about 4 minutes for the notifications and people to start coming on. I'm finishing my coffee from today, so I don't know. And hey, Morgan. Good to have you here. Have you been on the lives before? I always wonder, why do people want shout outs? You just want to be seen and heard, right? That's a human condition. Oh, welcome, Morgan. Well, this channel is all about the natural laws, about how energy flows, about identifying patterns and adjusting them. And we talk about different topics all the time, every single day. In fact, I'm on here every single day between 12 and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I usually get into the content right around 10 minutes. And then I talk for a little bit, and then we do Q&A about that topic and how it applies. Because a lot of people are new to the natural laws. The natural laws are how all energy operates. However, much of humanity has been, this information, has it been hidden? I don't think hidden. It's just been misguided for a lot of it, I think. I miss you. Cats, Mohammed. I miss you, cat. You got a new cat. That's your name. Interesting. Okay, well, people are starting to join in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on what the law of cycles are. So you can have some general understanding of the law of cycles. And then we're going to talk about, I want to put a poll up about, I'm going to actually do that now while we wait for people to come in. Where do you see or notice the most repeating cycle? And I'm going to give you 3 options: family, personal relationships, or work? So the question for you all to answer, and this will help us, there we go, address something that's most applicable to you. But I want to start by saying the law of cycles. What is the law of cycles? The law of cycles is essentially the fundamental of how all energy operates in relationship to time cycles, like timelines. And those timelines come in an ebb and flow. You might be familiar with things going in ebb and a flow, contraction and expansion of energy. So wherever there's a contraction, there will be an expansion, and vice versa. And but the one thing about cycles that keeps them repeating, and this is about repeating cycles, this topic today, is that these repeating cycles occur because we have failed to do the learning. First, we don't have awareness that they're repeating cycles, and if we do, then what? What do we do then? And it's really important that you learn your lessons, and it's not just about intellectualizing your lessons. And this is what I find the vast majority of people do, is they intellectualize their lessons. Like, oh, I've learned my lessons, I'm never going to trust again. Well, that's silly, because trust is an inside job. So that's not even a lesson. The lesson of not trusting them is that you didn't trust yourself in relationship to them. So it's a very interesting dynamic that people get in. So most of the time, you know, the cycle, the law of cycles is about the wheel of life and how energy is flowing through life. And you might be more aware of where it's not flowing than where it's flowing. But there is a cycle to it always. And then it's really just the law of cycles, how we are moving through timelines. So if you have an awareness that you're repeating a particular cycle, that you specifically are repeating a cycle, you are the only one that can learn the lessons that changes how that cycle either stops or shifts and changes, so it's not repeating the same exact cycle. It might be a new version. And that's what happens when you don't learn all your lessons. So for example, I have one relationship that I had that, and this is a friendship. It was one of my closest confidants, if you will, one of my good friends. And this relationship went south. I mean, when I say the word betrayal does not even begin to exemplify the magnitude of pain that was caused from this particular relationship. And what I would say that I did is like, no way in hell am I going to repeat that situation again. Like, I knew that had so much pain associated, that the learning had to be so deep, and I had to uncover lifelong soul lessons from that. That relationship was just an indication of what needed to be learned. You know, it wasn't that relationship was so bad. It was bad, but it's that relationship had that much learning for me. And this is what happens when we have repeating cycles, is it might be a soul lesson. So the law of cycles is something that you want to have in your conscious awareness. We know, like I've noticed since I was a little girl, about the holiday cycles, right? Like the stress for the holiday in my family began in June, July. Like that's when the planning started. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s, I was like, can we just do Christmas on a different day? You know, it just doesn't, it seems to be like a heightened experience for most of humanity during that time frame. That's a cycle. That's a cycle that humanity goes through around the holidays. And it's not something that I prefer. So you have to have awareness and then make adjustments. So my mother did not want to change the day of celebrating the holiday, but nonetheless, it's important for you to look at how big those cycles and those repeating patterns can be for you, because it might be varied. You know, I didn't put the holidays on there as an option because, you know, that's more of a societal cycle to be aware of. So I want to talk just a little bit of content around repeating cycles and what is most important for people to be aware of. That is a theme, a pattern and a theme that often happens with repeating cycles. Now, what I would offer to you is however you voted, which pattern or theme within the family, personal relationships, or work are you most aware of? So the first, I'm 3, and the first one is self-doubt. That's usually something that is an undercurrent when there is a cycle or a pattern emerging. Especially one that's repeating, because it will be familiar and you're like, oh, here we go again. And that's like a reaction, right? Well, what is, oh, here we go again? Is that like I'm ready? No, it's like, oh no, something's going to happen. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. And then the second one is that the most of the time cycles are repeating because there is a lack of an accurate assessment. So for example, it's not uncommon that people who have health challenges had conscious awareness of what was going on, but didn't do an accurate assessment, and therefore they were misguided. And the third is not so much a theme, but a recommendation, which is to seek the truth in all things, and the cycles will be in your face. And then you have conscious choice to make decisions from there. But most people don't like what they're seeing, which is the ego mind, and therefore they continue these repeating cycles that often bring a level of pain and discomfort. So I'm just curious where you all are seeing. There is 27 votes. Can we get a few more votes? All you 59 people in here, let's vote if you haven't voted. So I'm going to wait for you guys to vote, and then I'm going to go back and see. I don't know, how do I do that? I don't know how to bring this. I can't see the comments. Okay. Let's just see, what cycle am I answering? Right, Tommy? There's so many different cycles. So family, personal relationships, or work. And then I'm going to go forward on those topics. All 3, Tommy? Somebody said a low GPA, enjoy, no hard work, no game, just YouTube. Well, that is what is called escapism, and that is not a good pattern to be in. And in fact, it's quite detrimental. Tommy's saying I'm selling life lessons. Interesting. I'm not selling anything. If you resonate with what I'm talking about here, great. If not, you can check out. It's okay. Mohammed is asking, do I mean there is a negative and positive cycle? A negative and positive is not really about negative and positive as more as an awareness that a cycle is actually occurring. The negative and positive might be determined by your perception of the cycle, which was this feels good or it doesn't feel good. Maybe you term that negative or positive, but I'm not terming it or judging the cycle at all. I'm suggesting that you have awareness of the cycle. Tommy is saying, don't forget that the brain wants patterns and habits. The brain follows patterns, correct? It's not that the brain wants. The brain is not a judging organ. It just is a moving energy. So the thinking of the thoughts and the movement of energy are very different. So the brain does not want, just so you know, the brain follows. Okay, so I'm just going to end the poll at 58%. I'm going to go from there, and I'm going to talk about family patterns and how they could emerge. And I'm going to share a story, and you could see if that story resonates with you. So in our family, it often follows a pattern that goes down from lineage to lineage. Often those patterns are not given any voice. Most people are not consciously aware of them, but I'm going to share with you just a personal story about how I discovered a family pattern. So my sister and I had, we weren't close. We were 4 years apart in age, and we didn't have a lot in common, although I always wanted to have an older, wiser sister, somebody to help me through life, And, my sister and I, we really didn't have a close relationship. We just didn't have anything in common. I think that's if I were to say anything specific, I would say that would be as specific as I can find as what the problem was. We just really didn't have much in common. We had very different lives. We had very different perspectives. We had very different ways of approaching relationships and communication and friendships. I mean, you name it, we just didn't match on any of them. And so we just didn't really connect that much. And that's through growing up. And then it turns out as my mother and her sister didn't have much of a relationship. And for many, many years, they had a relationship to where they did not even talk. They didn't talk. And I don't know for how many years they didn't talk for. But it was when my mother got cancer that my aunt and her started. They bridged whatever. I don't know that they ever had a conversation about why they stopped talking. But they didn't talk. And then when my mother passed away, my sister and I, we don't talk. So that got me interested in the lineage of relationships within the family where it is literally happened. I was able to decipher within my family alone 5 different pairs of relationships, siblings, where communication was stopped for one reason or another. So is that a me and my sister thing, or is that we're just expressing the cycle of the family? Maybe it's a yes and or an either or, but it's definitely part of the law of cycles. So when you have conscious awareness, and I just thought that was so fascinating. Number one, it took the pressure off because there's no blame. I'm not blaming my sister. I'm not blaming me. There's no victim. There's no victimizer. This is just a pattern that doesn't need to be judged, right? What needs to happen is there needs to be learning. And so the learning for me started by going through the DNA, going and talking to and finding out where was the divide in so many of the relationships. Because it's important to understand that families, they play out these roles without consciously being aware of them. And there are many different unconventional ways in which you can learn about your family dynamics. I can't remember what this modality is called, but there's this one modality where and this is how I got started down this rabbit hole with family and the law of cycle, is you go and you have a facilitator, and then you have this, the roles, and you have how many brothers, how many sisters, aunts, uncles. And then everybody takes the name of that person, like somebody takes a role in the group. And then the group essentially feels into the energy of that persona without having any context other than the name. Nobody knows. And what you see play out in real time is the exact issues of the situation. Now, is that an energetic thing? 100%, because it's linked to the DNA. How powerful is the DNA? Exceptionally powerful. Now, with the DNA, things get switched on and off. It's like always running patterns of information, right? Constantly. But things have switches. And part of the switching things off or transmuting them is understanding what the lessons are. So for me, what I did for my sister and I, who had a very, what's the word I would say? Unfriendly, unkind type of relationship, like oil and water, just didn't mix well. We could try and have a cohesive conversation, but we just didn't even communicate. Like if I communicated something that I thought was very clear, it wasn't clear enough. It's one of those things, like you could never provide enough information or do enough. Nothing was ever enough. That was like the theme of my relationship with pretty much my entire family. So what did I do? I can't change them. I can only change me. And so this is what I'm offering you with the law of cycles, is identify the cycle. If you don't know what the cycle is, and you can only identify that this relationship doesn't work very cohesively, then you can learn the lessons from just that awareness. You don't have to know the exact cycle. The repeating cycles might emerge just from you having the little awareness that, hey, this relationship's very incongruent. It doesn't really flow. We are in contraction a lot, meaning there's a lot of conflict. They push my buttons. And that's how you start to discover the cycles. So I hope that was helpful. I know it's a very different way of looking at things. So I'm curious what you all think about your family cycles. How might you identify them? I'm just looking, how can we be practical and not follow the family? That's a really, what's practical? That's what I would ask you. What is practical? Because what's practical for you might not work for me. So that goes to my next point. Everything that I speak in any of my videos, take what works for you and leave the rest. If it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't resonate with you. Don't try to make it fit. If it confuses you, that might be an indication that there's something there for you to look at further, because confusion is an indication of more information, or that there's something there. And a lot of people who get confused just want to not be confused. But really, confusion is an invitation to go further. Same thing with self-doubt. When you have self-doubt, like let's just say there's 80 people on here watching and you're not sure why you're watching, why would you wonder about resonance? What is it about what you're feeling or sensing do you need to learn to follow more about? Because that's what the natural laws are all about. It's about using all of your extrasensory abilities, all of your ways of thinking, using critical thinking, knowing, sensing, see, sense, and feel. Those are all powerful ways to distill and use critical thinking. However, most people are looking for very grounded, practical advice, and that's really dangerous because you want your spidey senses to be up. You want your spidey senses to be not in hypervigilance, but, oh, I wonder if there's something that I need to hear here. Okay, I'm going to pin this message from Oliver saying what the topic is, because people keep on asking. Thank you, Oliver, for saying that. But Tommy is saying, what I meant by the brain wants is the subconscious. Well, that's different. And that means that you are responsible for bringing to light what is at play. You're not just supposed to be unconscious and let your subconscious dictate what's happening. You're supposed to get aware, find out what's in the shadow and bring light to it. That's why we're here, is to be awake, alert, and making conscious choices, right? The brain doesn't want, the brain just follows. And we can interrupt cycles of patterns through our consciousness. And Tommy is saying, we obviously diametrically disagree here. He's saying that survival is the key goal. Maybe for you, and what I would suggest is that belief is tied into a series of unearthed, hidden, buried, and concealed pain that you might have running in your energy, Tommy. And just because your experience is saying that, hey, we're just here to survive, and that's the goal here on earth, that is your belief system that you have now ascribed to and put that on everybody. What if my purpose is distinctly different than your purpose? Hello, India. Just looking for questions. Raman is asking, Rasmus is asking, am I a teacher? If that's, some people say that, some people say teacher, consultant. I'm just here sharing about the natural laws and how energy works, and having really nice, meaningful conversations with some people who really like to learn about different things. Yes, I'm on here. Oh, you come in here, Booga. Booga is saying they, Booga Booga? Booga Booga. Booga Booga. These names, Banana, Booga Booga, that's all right. You come on here every day. Thank you. What do you like about coming on here? I'm just looking for questions. What about planning? Is it something different? Repeating cycles and planning? I mean, I think that's something different. I don't know what you mean about planning, but it oftentimes when we are repeating a cycle, it's mostly not conscious. So these would be unconscious cycles that are repeating that need to be identified so we can adjust and change. Hey, Peter. Thanks for being here. We're talking about the law of cycles and also the topic of repeating cycles. And specifically, we were talking about how family repeating cycles emerge in nefarious ways, unexpected ways. And I had shared, Peter, that I don't know if you were here for that. I just noticing that you were here. That in my family, my sister and I didn't talk, my mother and her sister didn't talk, and then I found out 3 other siblings down the line, going back 3 generations, did not talk. So it was actually not just a me and my sister thing, but a lineage thing, something that was running in the DNA, which I thought for me took the sting out of the learning, you know, but the learning is still the learning, right? It's still my responsibility to go and get all of the learning between my sister and I. And it's been a while since I reviewed what I learned from her specifically, but I want to say it was not like so impactful that it was a soul lesson. It wasn't associated with like a tremendous amount of pain, just more about becoming consciously aware. So the number of lessons when it's just about conscious and awareness is going to be different than if you have a soul lesson to learn. Usually if you have a soul lesson to learn, it's going to be upwards of 25 to 75 to, I've seen upwards of 90 lessons that need to be consciously brought to the awareness and then integrated both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because only when we're integrating our learning through all aspects of our bodies do we actually transcend them. But if something works for me, that confuses me because it's causing self-doubt and critical thinking. Victor, it's really about, right. Confusion causes discomfort, correct? And all learning comes from a space of discomfort, all powerful learning, I will say. Like, if you go to school, they use stress as a way to cause discomfort, but they use stress in a way that's, I would say, unproductive. But essentially, it's about creating and triggering the synapses in a totally different way, so you fire differently. And self-doubt, when most people feel self-doubt, they usually lead to, I'm insecure. But self-doubt is really about an invitation to go inward. And most people that resonate with this content, they're not going to be the regular average people, right? The people that are going to be here are going to be looking to be learning something different so they can evolve faster. Because anybody who's even slightly interested in the natural laws is being guided to an evolution of the soul and a pure connection to the soul, whether that's what they realize or not. Critical thinking is so important because so much of the time fear is used as a tool to get people off center. When people are off center, they are more easily manipulated. People are more easily abused. They're more easily betrayed because they're trusting something outside of themselves. But when you have self-doubt, and you go within and you use this skill called critical thinking, the chances of you getting had is less. Doesn't mean you won't have challenges, but it's less. Tommy says, I'm not arguing. Okay, Tommy. I didn't think we were arguing either. We're just exchanging ideas. It's okay. It's okay, Tommy. Hi, Eric. Full heart. Eric, good to see you here. Good to see you here. Such a good person. Be here every day. No. Somebody's asking, are you a psychologist? No, I'm not a therapist or a psychologist or a counselor. I do energy psychology, which is very different. I work on physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual alignment, and that's what I focus on. And yeah, hopefully that helps. I teach people how to manage their energy field. Manders is asking, am I Christian? No, I'm not Christian. I don't read the Bible. I don't go to Christian churches or Catholic churches. That's not for me. I believe in the natural laws of God. I believe in Christ consciousness, which is very different than how the message of Christ is taught within the church confounds, as far as I have found. Rick Doss, if you think smoking weed, you're going to know your soul, you have been lied to. What you're actually doing is blocking your soul's expression. That's what smoking does. That's what taking drugs do, is it blocks your soul expression. It actually numbs it. So you wouldn't even know your soul lesson unless you get hit with it. And I absolutely do not smoke. In fact, I'm probably one of the few people that you meet. I've never smoked pot, never been drawn to it, I don't have a judgment about it. It's not for me. Yes, I believe in God. I believe in God consciousness. I believe in Christ consciousness. I believe in unity consciousness. I believe in higher levels and access of consciousness. Yes. Manders, I don't know what you're saying here. No, it makes you think more deeper. That's why you've been fooled, Rick. It doesn't make you think deeper. In fact, if you look at the data on smoking pot, it makes all of your sensories move in a much slower rate, especially your comprehension. Hi, Kay. Good to see you here. Hello. Thanks for the wave. Tommy, this is where you're wrong. Tommy, we're just going to disagree today, but that's okay. I could agree to disagree. I appreciate you being here and saying what you're saying. Tommy is suggesting that you cannot stop nerves from sending signals with thought. I'm just pointing out the power of the subconscious. Well, did you know that you can turn your nervous system from that something that's been firing in hypervigilance, that you can actually turn it off? Did you know that you have the power to do that without any kind of medication? Now, is that the subconscious that just turned it on? How the nervous system gets triggered is more complicated than I wish to get into here, but the nervous system is a key component of how you internalize and comprehend information. So it will actually, if your nervous system is operating on, because you think your brain is sending the signals on, which it probably is. I'm not going to deny that that is happening. But why is it happening? Have you claimed all of your signals as your own? Have you owned that this is your body and you dictate how it's going to consciously operate? And I would suggest that most people don't do that. They don't know that their body is a physical expression of spirit. And if your spirit is firing, right, if your soul, if your spiritual body has been taken over by somebody else or something else because you have yet to claim your own energy field. Now, this might really trigger a lot of you all, but it happens all the time. And I see people that come to me for my No More Anxiety program, and they learn exactly how to, number one, see, sense, and feel their field immediately. And they learn how to turn off their nervous system if it's in fight or flight. That is not something that just operates when you command your body. Now, you have to have practices in place when you notice that your nervous system is overactive active. Well, why am I overactive? Well, ask that question later. First, you need to take control of your body again and get your system calm and clear. And then you can go into, well, what are the cycles of my nervous system being activated? Let me understand them. Was there a thought that triggered it? Was it a person? Was it a place? It could be a lot of things. But it's your responsibility to figure that out, not to take a pill so you don't feel it. Because your body is always sending you signals. So you and I agree on that. And so Tommy is asking, I think survival comes first at the deepest possible level. And my thoughts are that many people have their nervous systems on via this thing called fight or flight. Fight or flight is very commonly understood as a survival technique. I am being threatened. I am under threat. Most people have their nervous system overactivated for a lack of awareness that they actually can command that space within themselves with their power of their conscious and their breath and their intention and resolve the signal. Now, when signals are often stuck, if you will, or frozen in time is another way that it could be perceived, or jammed, like the signal's jammed, because those things do happen. That's when it's helpful to work with somebody that does this every day. But taking a pill does not make that go away. It just changes your perceptions of it. That's still going on. And if your nervous system is not turned off, you're going to be firing that. That means that all the adrenals are going, all your chemicals are going to be off, and every single one of those things directly influences your perception of fear. It changes your perceptions of relationships. It changes your perceptions of absolutely everything that you experience. So that might mean that you're living in a very fearful state all the time because you haven't been able to implement critical thinking. Critical thinking is a massive skill set that most people are lacking. Why are they lacking it? Because they don't want to take the time, effort, and energy to think for themselves, because that requires responsibility. That would essentially mean that you take full responsibility for everything that you in your life. Stocks for you are saying, what are your thoughts on sleeping naked? It keeps you warmer. That's what my thoughts are. Rick Doss is inviting me to try with me. Sometimes you will believe. Rick, I appreciate your invitation. I have zero desire to numb out, to escape, to go outside of myself for any of the answers. I have zero desire. Mandarus is saying religion kills, relationship saves. I agree 100%. Religions have been really infiltrated, for lack of a better word, and it's for a lot of people, it's been a very negative thing. I mean, all you have to do is look at the cycles and the patterns of most religions. And even some of my family members who have been staunch Christians, you know, their family was devastated when somebody in authority did something they shouldn't have done. And, you know, they're still Christians. You know, it wasn't the church that did it, but it's a culture. And religions develop cultures, and those cultures have beliefs, and those beliefs keep people stuck. So, okay, Tommy, I like sharing thoughts. Tommy, I like that you're sharing here. Tommy is saying, no, like if you burn my hand, it's going to hurt. Well, you know, until you learn how to walk on fire, and then you realize that there is a connection and that you can overcome and override being burnt. How do I know I did it? I mean, I didn't want to walk on fire, but I thought, oh, why not? Let's just try it. And, you know, yeah, could I have scalded my feet on these coals? Absolutely. But I did it anyways, and I didn't burn my feet. I didn't meet anybody that burnt their feet. Cars and More is saying I lost my nervous system. This makes me very sad, because you can take back every aspect, every body part, every expression that is organically yours is blueprinted through your organic blueprint. So you could take your energies back. Every aspect. So don't think I lost, they took it, it's stolen, I don't know what happened. No, you have to learn how to reclaim your power, your energies. That nervous system is yours. I don't want it, but I do know other energies feed off of those energies. That's called miasma. It's called loosh. It's called density. Those are the three main ones that you could look up and learn more about if that interests you. Actually, your English and accent is slow-paced and understandable, unlike other foreigners. Okay. I try to talk slower, so thank you. I think I talk too fast. Beach is asking, do I like Trump? I don't like him any more than I like any other politician. I'm not a fan. How's that? I don't dislike him, but I'm not a fan, but I'm not really political. I don't think that's a waste of time. Rick Doss is saying, simple, do a meditation and smoke weed. Well, I'm not a proponent of that. And I think that you're doing yourself a great disservice by that, because you're numbing yourself out. So what you think is making your meditations exceptionally better, it's actually making you vulnerable to other energies. But hey, you do whatever you want. Okay, Cars and More, stop saying the same thing over and over again. Tommy, are we saying the same thing? I don't know. Tommy, you really don't understand. Tommy is saying if I burn my hand, it's going to hurt no matter what. You can't turn that off, and I respectfully disagree with you 100%. Why? Because I have experience of having an experience and being able to rewire through consciousness, even through extreme pain. You want to go out of pain? You want to feel no pain? Get present. In the present moment, there's no pain. Try it. See. Can you talk about trauma? Trauma and the law of cycles. Sure, let's go. What do you want to talk about? A lot of trauma is passed down from generation to generation. They call that generational trauma, but most people just accept that to be truth for them. Why is trauma passed down? Because people failed to notice and learn the lessons. That's it. I mean, let me take that back. That's not it, but that's a big piece of it. Because you can't go and learn the lessons of your family, per se, in the way that you think logically. You can only do that through learning the lessons of expansion through the spiritual aspects and understanding the patterns of spiritual betrayals that have gone on through humanity. Rick Doss, see that, Rick, this is exactly what I'm talking. You're not computing. You're not computing what I'm saying. There is absolutely nothing that I said that said to ignore your feelings. And if you looked at any of my videos from the past, I actually say that is a detrimental aspect of consciousness, is to ignore your feelings. So Rick, you and I diametrically are opposed. Religion is created by humans. What are your views on this? Well, I would say it's probably not helpful for me to say what my beliefs are about religion, because I don't want to offend anybody. I know a lot of people really believe what they believe, and it's not my place to challenge your beliefs per se, unless you're in session, and then I have free reign to do that. But for me, I grew up very, what I would say, pretty religious, and I really enjoyed my experience until I didn't. And I think this is part of the learning of the cycles, is to understand what resonates with you. And if you are ignoring the expansion and contraction and the ebb and the flow, and you're not able to see the repeating patterns, and you just keep on doing what everybody else did. Everybody else in my family is still in quote unquote religions. I don't know how happy that makes them. That's not my business. And it's not my business to give you my views about these various religions. I just know it doesn't resonate for me. And I would ask that you look and see what resonates for you. Evolving higher abilities naturally. That's the universal soul contract. Evolving higher pleasures and higher abilities naturally. That's the universal soul contract. I have never heard of a universal soul contract. I'm going to have to go look that up. This is the first I'm hearing about that. I've never, in anything that I've ever read or heard personally, or heard everybody else talk about, I've never heard that. But I wonder if you're talking about collective consciousness. I don't know. That's very interesting. The higher self uses individuals to evolve as it sees fit. And that's where I would differ. The higher self can only be brought forward consciously by an invitation. The higher self does not intervene, as far as I am aware and in my experience, but obviously you have a different perception and a different belief about that. But in my experience, the higher self will never impede on our free will. So the level of rank, to me, I'm perceiving you saying the level of rank is really the level of consciousness that the person has been able to evolve to. Okay. Thanks for the tip about who to pick out. Is love real? Love is a frequency, yeah. I embrace nature and forest. Good for you being Shmasan. I don't know what that means, but. Connect with your heart, mobile, and get off the phone. That'll help you sleep. YouTubing. All right, y'all. My name is Kiana Sage, and today was the first discussion on the natural law of cycles. This is the ebb and flow, contraction and expansion, and how we learn our lessons. Today we were talking about, specifically we talked about patterns that run in families. And these repeating cycles run in every single family. So if you're not consciously aware of the repeating cycles within your families, that might be a good place to start to do some inquiry. What are the repeating cycles? How many repeating cycles do you have? Get in tune with that within your heart. Listen and see what you come up with. I talked about self-doubt being an invitation to go within, okay? And the importance of repeating cycles really falls on your ability to accurately assess what's going on. Being says, I want to learn how to focus on studies and concentration to increase mental willpower. I would say mental flexibility is a better and more valued for health, wellness, vitality. But if you want mental willpower, that's more about ego strength. So I would invest in that personally. Okay, y'all. I am Kiana Sage, and I guide people to peace. I'm on here every day for a live video between 12 and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The topics this week will all revolve around the law of cycles. I am waiting until the day of to determine what the topic's going to be, and then just do a free flow of conversation from there. Without making too many notes, but having a few notes. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time and energy. And thanks, Eric, for being here, and Oliver and Peter, and have a great day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.